There's a conductor in West Virginia who worked for Norfolk Southern for 26 years. In 2022, his company posted a record profit of $4.8 billion. That same year, the total compensation for all 19,000 employees at Norfolk Southern came to $2.6 billion. Do the math and you see the company made almost twice as much profit as it paid to every single worker on its payroll combined. When the unions came to the table asking for sick days and better schedules, the railroad said no, we can't afford it. The money isn't there. Then, a few months later, they announced they were returning $4.2 billion to their shareholders through stock buybacks and dividends. The conductor in West Virginia saw those numbers. He can read a balance sheet. He knows exactly where the money went, and it was not to him. This is the story of American railroading in the 21st century. If you've spent any time around the industry, you already know how it goes. In 2022, Union Pacific had one of its best years ever. The freight was moving, the profits were rolling in, and when the annual report came out, the company announced it had spent $6.3 billion buying back its own stock. That is money that goes directly to shareholders, money that reduces the number of shares on the market so that each remaining share becomes more valuable, money that flows straight into the pockets of the people who own the company on paper but have never set foot in a rail yard or pulled a shift in a locomotive cab. And in that same year, the total amount Union Pacific spent on employee pay and benefits for its entire workforce came to $4.6 billion. The shareholders got $1.7 billion more than 30,000 workers put together. You can look this up yourself. It is in the SEC filings. It is in the annual reports. CNN wrote about it. The numbers are right there for anyone who wants to see them. And this isn't some one-time thing that happened because of unusual circumstances or a particularly good quarter. This is the pattern. This is how the railroads have chosen to operate for the last 15 years, and the scale of it is almost hard to believe until you start adding it all up. The chairman of the Surface Transportation Board, the federal agency that regulates the railroad industry, gave a speech in 2021 where he laid out exactly what's been happening. Since 2010, the 5 major American freight railroads have paid out $114 billion in stock buybacks. On top of that, they have paid another $77 billion in dividends. That is $191 billion that went to shareholders over roughly a decade. During that same period, they spent $138 billion on capital improvements, which includes everything from track maintenance to new equipment to infrastructure upgrades. The people who own the railroads took home $53 billion more than the railroads spent keeping the actual trains running. By 2024, the chairman updated those numbers. Over 14 years, the Class I railroads had returned $253 billion to their shareholders. The amount they had invested in actually expanding capacity and improving service was $40 billion. And while all of this was happening, the workforce kept shrinking. In 2015, the major freight railroads employed about 174,000 people. By 2021, that number had dropped to 116,000. That is a third of the workforce gone in 6 years, and the trains did not stop running, the freight did not stop moving, the profits certainly did not stop growing. The railroads just figured out how to squeeze more work out of fewer people, and the money they saved went straight to Wall Street. The man who really perfected this system was a railroad executive named Hunter Harrison. He developed something called precision scheduled railroading, a set of operating principles designed to drive down costs and boost efficiency. In 2017, an activist hedge fund called Mantle Ridge installed him as chief executive officer of CSX. His compensation package for that first year was $151 million. Within 9 months, CSX had eliminated 4,000 jobs. The stock price went up, the shareholders were happy, and Hunter Harrison became a legend on Wall Street for proving that you could run a railroad with far fewer workers than anyone had previously thought possible. The other railroads watched what happened at CSX and started copying the playbook. Norfolk Southern adopted precision-scheduled railroading. Union Pacific adopted it. The layoffs spread across the industry. The trains got longer, the crews got smaller, and every dollar saved on labor was another dollar that could flow to investors. In 2022, railroad workers finally had enough. They had been negotiating contracts for years, and the main thing they were asking for was not even more money. They wanted sick days, they wanted predictable schedules, they wanted basic quality of life improvements that most workers in America take for granted. The railroads refused. They said they could not afford it, even as they were posting record profits and buying back billions in stock. When the workers threatened to strike, Congress stepped in and forced a contract on them. The workers received raises, but they did not get the sick days they had been begging for. A few months after that contract was imposed, a Norfolk Southern train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. Toxic chemicals spilled. A controlled burn sent a massive plume of smoke over the town. Residents were evacuated, and the cleanup costs eventually topped $1 billion. And that same year, Norfolk Southern's CEO received a 37% raise. His total compensation was $13.4 million. The company posted record profits. The shareholders did just fine. The thing about stock buybacks is that they used to be illegal. From 1929 until 1982, buying back your own stock was considered market manipulation because that is essentially what it is. You are using company money to artificially inflate the value of your shares. The Reagan administration changed the rules in 1982, and ever since then, buybacks have become the preferred way for corporations to return money to their owners without actually investing it in anything productive. The railroads have embraced this more enthusiastically than almost any other industry. The chairman of the Surface Transportation Board put it pretty simply in one of his speeches. He said the railroads are paying out billions and billions every year in stock buybacks, and if they need more workers, they could use some of that money to actually hire people. He said every shipper he talked to kept their workforce intact during the pandemic because they knew business would come back and they did not want to lose experienced employees. Only the railroads laid people off by the tens of thousands and then acted surprised when they could not hire them back. And here's where it really hits home for the guys who actually work on the railroad. The pay ratio at Union Pacific, which is the difference between what the chief executive officer makes and what the median employee makes, is 113:1. At CSX, it is 116:1. At Norfolk Southern, it is 109:1. The person running the company makes in a single year what it would take a conductor or an engineer more than a century to earn, and every time the unions come to the table asking for better conditions, the answer is always the same. We can't afford it. The money isn't there. We have to be responsible to our shareholders. The money is there. Everyone knows the money is there. The annual reports prove the money is there. The railroads just decided a long time ago that the people who own the stock matter more than the people who keep the trains running. That conductor in West Virginia is still showing up for work. He's still pulling his shifts and following his routes and doing the job he's been doing for 26 years. Somewhere in a boardroom, someone is looking at a spreadsheet and figuring out how many more shares they can buy back next quarter.